Welcome to the deep dive. Netflix is dropping Eternauta soon, April 30th, actually, and we figured it's the perfect moment to really dig into this comic.
Yeah, because it's not just any comic, is it? It's a huge deal.
Exactly. And you, our listener, you want to get up to speed quickly on things that have real cultural weight. This one definitely fits the bill.
Totally. We've been looking at this piece from Softonic, and it does a great job explaining why Eternauta was so important. It's way more than just hype for the show.
It calls it a fundamental pillar of Argentine culture and even global sci-fi.
Right. So our mission here is to kind of unpack why. Why is it this marvel? What makes it resonate so deeply?
Okay, let's start with the basics then. Eternauta. What's the story about? Who's our main guy?
Right, so the protagonist is Juan Salvo. And the key thing is he's presented as, just a totally ordinary man living in Buenos Aires. Normal life.
Okay, relatable start. Then what happens?
And boom, catastrophe. A lethal snowfall suddenly hits the city.
Lethal snowfall, you mean? Like deadly snow?
Exactly. Instant death on contact. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And completely out of the blue.
Wow. Okay. So how do Juan Salvo and everyone else react? What can you even do?
Well, Juan's with his wife, his daughter, some friends, neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
They do what you'd hope. They find shelter, barricade themselves inside.
Survival mode kicks in.
Right. And crucially, they start improvising, trying to make protective suits, anything to survive stepping outside. It's desperate stuff.
So it starts as this really intense, grounded disaster story, but I gather it doesn't stay that way. The Softonic piece mentioned more.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely evolves. That initial disaster is just the beginning. It escalates into what the article calls an epic of resistance.
Against what? More snow?
Against a full-blown alien invasion, a really complex one, multi-layered. The snowfall was just like phase one.
Ah, okay. So the threat gets bigger and presumably weirder.
Much weirder. The enemies they face become increasingly bizarre, more formidable as the story progresses. It's not just killer weather anymore.
Right. And the article highlighted a core message that comes out of this struggle, something about heroism.
Yes, and this is really interesting. The comic strongly argues that heroism isn't about one person. It's collective. Survival, resistance against this inhuman force, it takes community, cooperation, organization.
So working together is the only way.
Pretty much. The article even throws in that little parenthetical like, did someone say communism? Just to underline that focus on the group over the individual against this massive threat. Ordinary people finding strength and solidarity.
That's a powerful theme, very different from the lone wolf hero type. And the writer, Héctor Germán Oesterheld, he was key to this, right? Tell us about him.
Oesterheld, yeah. He was the screenwriter. And from everything you read, he was quite something. Deeply into science fiction, obviously, but also driven by these really strong humanist values.
Humanist values, how did that play out?
Well, his background is interesting, too. He was a geologist first, then got into writing, adventure stuff, then comics. Maybe that science background gave him a different lens on things.
A geologist turned comic writer. Okay, didn't expect that. What was his writing style like? What made it stand out?
Empathy, I think. The article points out his characters weren't your typical muscle-bound heroes. They were often vulnerable, ethical, more worried about others than themselves.
Like Juan Salvo, the ordinary guy.
Exactly. He intentionally avoided those standard archetypes. His characters, the article says, they were often defeated by the system, but never surrendered to it. It suggests a kind of inner resilience,
Yeah, moral strength. But the story behind the comic's creation gets pretty dark, doesn't it? The article mentions a tragic turn.
It does. Hugely tragic. See, the comic was popular in Argentina initially, but Oesterheld's own life got caught up in the political turmoil of the 1970s, the dictatorship.
Things got dangerous for him.
Very. He became more radicalized, more involved in activism because of the oppressive regime. That same humanism that shaped his writing likely fueled his resistance.
And how did that connect back to Eternauta? Did his politics show up in the work?
Massively.
Yeah.
He got involved with the Montoneros, a guerrilla group, writing political stuff for them. And around the same time, he wrote a second part to El Eternauta.
A sequel.
Sort of. But this one was way more political. Overtly so. Juan Salvo wasn't just fighting aliens anymore. He was leading a revolution against an oppressive government. It was a clear allegory for what was happening in Argentina.
Wow. So he was using sci-fi to comment directly on the dictatorship.
Exactly. The article suggests it was his way of kind of recording his thoughts, his resistance during that period of state terror, using fiction as a shield maybe, or a weapon.
That takes incredible courage.
It does, and it came at an unbearable cost.
This is the really difficult part of the story, isn't it?
Yeah. In 1977, Oesterheld, he was 57, he was kidnapped by the military regime, just disappeared.
Oh, God.
The last reported sighting of him was in a secret detention center. And the accounts say, chillingly, he was still writing. Even there, his body was never found.
That's horrifying. A writer silenced like that. And the tragedy didn't end with him.
No, it's almost unthinkable. Before he was taken, all 4 of his daughters, Estella, Diana, Marina, Beatrice, they were activists too. They were also kidnapped, disappeared, murdered by the regime. 3 of his sons-in-law as well.
The entire family, nearly.
His wife, Elsa, she was the only one who survived that specific horrific loss.
Yeah.
Devastating. The personal price of his beliefs and the sheer brutality of that era.
It really underscores what the article says. It's striking that this sci-fi comic comes from someone who literally disappeared for what he believed.
Absolutely. But, and this is important, the article also stresses that El Eternauta isn't just important because of this awful history.
Right. It stands on its own merits, too.
Exactly. It's still read, still powerful, because fundamentally it's just an incredibly well-written, structured, and thought-out work. The quality of the storytelling is undeniable.
So the art transcends the tragedy in a way.
In a big way. And that allegorical quality we talked about, the silent, deadly snowfall, the invasion from above, people read that in different ways now. Well, it can represent colonialism or dictatorship, sure, but maybe also like climate change. Any kind of overwhelming, seemingly impersonal threat. It taps into these really universal fears.
And the fact that the heroes are just regular people, that must be key to why it still connects, right?
Totally. Juan Salvo and his friends, they aren't superheroes. They're vulnerable. They rely on each other. They're basically us facing something impossible. That relatability is huge.
Okay, so bringing it back to the present, the Netflix series is coming. There's excitement, but maybe some nervousness too.
Definitely. The article captures that well. It says, with Netflix, you never know. Adaptations are always a gamble, aren't they?
Yeah.
Will they get it right? Will they capture the spirit?
It's always a question mark. But the piece suggests there's a potential upside, regardless of how the show turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing that could happen, really, is if this series gets more people around the world to actually discover the original comic and to learn about Oesterheld's story.
So if the show acts as a gateway to the source material and its history, that's a win.
That would be a huge win, a truly valuable outcome.
So wrapping this up then, El Eternauta is clearly way more than just some sci-fi comic you binge before a series premiere.
Oh, absolutely. It's this deeply significant cultural piece tied up with Argentine history, with the author's incredible bravery, his tragic fate.
And those themes, collective struggle, resistance, the power of ordinary people, they still hit home, don't they? They feel universal.
Completely. They speak to experiences far beyond Argentina in the 70s.
And for you, listening, wanting to get that quick, solid understanding of why this matters, hopefully this deep dive gave you that. It really makes you think, doesn't it? About stories born under pressure, reflecting these intense, real-world battles. They carry a unique kind of weight.
It definitely leaves you with something to chew on. Think about how these stories, created in times of fear and oppression, achieve such lasting power. What does that say about art's role when things get dark? And about the sacrifices people like Oesterheld make for their convictions? Maybe exploring El Eternauta encourages you to look for other works like it, stories that carry that kind of profound historical and personal echo. And we'll leave it there for today.
Sounds good.
Until next time, keep on diving.